Hello. Hi, everyone. We're just getting ourselves organized here. Never mind us. Okay. Is it on a slant? Does it feel like it's at an angle? Is that okay, y'all? Hi. Okay. Welcome back. Oh, it's been a minute or a month. We haven't been together since before Passover. And now we're almost to Lag Bomer. So we were just chatting here live that there is a lot going on. We've got lots of change happening in everyone's personal lives and professional lives. And there's a lot. And I know we've got several friends joining us online tonight on Facebook, logging in from different places. So we are going to just jump right in and try our best to dust off the cobwebs and pick back up of where we were before we took a little break for Passover. And then I had my son in town for 7 weeks on an extended visit, and he brought his friend from school for 5 weeks. So I had two 16-year-old boys living in my house for 5 weeks, and it will never smell the same. And then we took a grand finale trip to the Grand Canyon before I sent them back to Florida. So, woo, lots going on. So, we are going to kick back off today with a topic that's going to kind of, sort of, continue with the last happening around us, instead of feeling like we have situational happiness or circumstantial happiness. So how can we make sure that we have true happiness and joy and peace of mind, regardless of all of the, if the sky is falling and all the things that are happening around us? So the topic for today's conversation is let it be easy. And that's how we want to feel in our daily life. Now, this doesn't mean that we have no challenges. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden we get to a place where everything in our life is smooth and we can just coast, but it means that we learn how to rise above the challenges and the obstacles that we're facing. So what we're going to talk about today is what Hasidus teaches us about the secrets of emotional management and emotional intelligence. So this is going to continue for those of you that were with us in the last conversation we had right before Pesach, or if you had a chance to go back and watch the replay. We were focused on very practical but powerful discussions on how to start breaking free from the prison of our emotional addiction. And the reality is that most of us are addicted to our emotions. We're addicted to these emotional cycles, and without even realizing it, we live off of the highs and lows of being triggered, frustrated, what's going wrong, I gotta solve a problem, and we constantly live in this state of fight or flight, actually fight, flight, or freeze. And what we don't realize is that our bodies emotionally, spiritually, chemically get used to those highs and lows, and we find that we're very bored if we just have no drama. So unconsciously and subconsciously, what we start doing is we start creating drama without even realizing that that's what we're doing. So the thing we talked about last time is the fact that women, we are not meant to be emotional beings. We're meant to be spiritual beings who feel deeply and who express emotions deeply. And we certainly have an emotional makeup and we have an emotional body, but we're not meant to be emotional, meaning that we are merely our emotions. We are so much bigger than that. We're so much more than that. But what happens is we allow ourselves to live, again, it's happening very unconsciously, but we allow ourselves to live as the sum total of our emotions. Okay? So what that means is that we allow our emotions to hijack our goals and our plans and our dreams, and it minimizes us to the lowest possible version of ourselves. So why do we do that? because we are duplicating everything that we see in the world. We're duplicating what we see happening all around us. We watch what our parents did, what our grandparents did. They learned it from the parents before us. Our teachers do it. Our friends do it. Our colleagues live this way. And we live up, down, up, down, up, down in this responsive, reactionary cycle to our emotions. But it doesn't have to be that way. And Hasidus says something very, very different about how we're meant to live and the experience and the quality of life that we're meant to have. So that's what we're going to look at today. So first, very, very quickly, in a nutshell, what is Hasidus? Okay, Hasidus was brought into the world by the Baal Shem Tov, and he was born in the very late 1600s and into the early 1700s. He basically took the secrets of Kabbalah and the inner dimensions of Torah that were up until that time reserved for very, very, very high level Torah scholars, and he brought them to the world in a way that even normal everyday people like you and me could understand. So simple, understandable concepts for all Jews, regardless of our level of education or learning or whether or not you grew up in a Torah environment or not. So Hasidus is the inner secrets of the Torah that teach us how to live our lives in a very practical way according to the formulas and the recipes for success that are mapped out by the Torah. And here's the thing. The Torah is not meant to be a history book. It's meant to be instead a playbook for life. Okay, but it's so deep and with so many levels that we can hardly even begin to understand it, which is why we all need good teachers. And the thing that we know is that choosing to live a life according to Torah and Hasidus is definitely not easy to do nowadays, because the Jewish people have become so lost and confused by this world. And so as a result of that, we live our lives upside down and backward, and we can't even understand what's going on. We don't know why we're doing what we're doing. We don't know how to fix the situations or deal with the issues that we're facing, because we are trying to deal with issues based on what we see happening around us. And what we see happening around us is the blind leading the blind. Literally, we are the head chasing the tail. And we've got it completely backward of trying to blend in and fit in and duplicate a world of non-Jews, of nations that they weren't gifted the secrets that we have. So why are we doing that? Because it was passed on to us generationally like that. So today we're going to look at one of the biggest struggles that I believe, now this is my very biased opinion, but I believe this from my own experience and observation with the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women that I have coached. One of the biggest struggles that modern day women tend to face, which is allowing our emotional responses to what's happening around us to hijack our functioning. We literally lose the ability to think clearly and function at our highest state because we have become drunk on our emotions and on the chemical soup that is literally flushing through our veins as a result of the brain chemistry that it becomes like a domino effect through our entire body. Have you ever been so angry that you can feel it in your fingertips or in your arms or in your stomach and your jaw? Or you get bad news, or you get somebody sends you a nasty text, and then all of a sudden you can feel it in your gut or in your back, and that is your whole body is feeling the emotions and has been hijacked by our emotions, because the reason that happens is that emotions are energy, and energy is a force. So this emotional, energetic body becomes an invisible enemy that's attacking us from the inside. It's attacking us from within. So do you know that you can actually train yourself to rise above your emotions, just like you can train yourself to learn a new language, learn a new computer code, give up alcohol, clean up your eating, change your diet. Learning to manage our emotions is a skill. But where do they teach that class? I mean, if only they taught it to us in kindergarten. That's really when we need it. We need it in preschool. But they never teach it to us. We go through life drunk off of our emotions, following everybody else and watching these trigger patterns happening in the world. So here's the thing. We can decide to take charge, and we can totally, fully, and completely learn the skill of emotional mastery. And all you need is 4 things. Okay? Here are the 4 things that we need, because the human mind is so powerful. We need, number 1, awareness. Number 2, desire. Number 3, strong coaching or an accurate source, because I could be learning all day, but if I think I'm learning Hebrew and I'm learning Chinese, I don't know what I'm learning. I'm trusting the source. So we have to make sure that we are learning accurate information from a reliable source. So awareness, desire, a good coach, accurate info, and consistency. Consistently repeating, practicing. You know, Michael Jordan says, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So we have to make sure that when we're practicing with consistency, that we're practicing in the right way, because habit is nothing more than repetition. Repeating an action over and over and over again. So I can have sloppy habits or I can have strong habits. So when we are learning how to deal with our emotions, we all have emotional habits. Most of us just have very sloppy, very reactive, very toxic emotional habits. So let's talk about this in light of emotional management. So the first thing that I want us to think about, are your emotions running your life? So think about the most common emotions that you experience on any given day. Okay, we've got stress, anger, fear, frustration. How about irritability? Getting our feelings hurt, easily triggered. Now, if you've ever had kids, or if you work with children, certainly if you have kids at home, think about when they were young, or when they're in middle school, or even when they're in high school with adolescence and all the hormones raging. How often is there either their academic learning or a task that you want them to complete and focus on? How often is that interrupted or blocked by the emotional state of the kids? Oh my gosh. It's way bigger than the task at hand, right? And so how often does that exact same thing happen with us as adults? You see, we have a list of things that we know we need to accomplish, but we are completely blocked or paralyzed because of something we read that morning, or a text we got, or, an ex said something, or a colleague, or our mother, somebody triggered us. And so now we cannot even focus on the task at hand because we're too drunk of this emotional cycle. So our emotional body has completely taken over us. All of our fears, our drama, all the self-talk, hey, come on in.
I live in the neighborhood.
Ooh, lucky us. Come join us. Oh, nice. We're talking about emotions and how we get drunk on our emotions.
Okay, wow, emotions. We talk about emotions all week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a recurring theme, huh? Okay, good. So we're talking about, let's say if you have kids, okay, the kids at the house, and you've given them a task to do, or they need to be focusing on their homework or their tasks, but something happened and their emotional state is totally preventing them from being able to focus on the task at hand. And the same thing happens to us, that we have a list of things that we're supposed to be doing, but we got an email or a text, or we saw something, or our husband said something, or our mother triggered us, or something to where we can't even focus on the task because all of our fears, our drama, our self-talk, just this whole thing, and we're just on this drunk cycle of being victim to our emotional state. Okay? So if we want to be able to guide our children and how to rise above their primal state of like low level emotional reaction, we've got to first be able to guide ourselves through this process, right? So there's a story that I've shared before, but two guys walk into a bar, which is the worst way to start any story ever. Okay. But they walk into a bar and there's a guy over at the corner and he has a look on his face, an expression. And one guy is like, oh my gosh, he's laughing at me. Why is he making fun of me? And another guy is like, wow, he's smiling so big. He loves me. And the truth is that when they walked closer to the guy, he wasn't angry and he wasn't smiling. He just had a huge scar on his face. But they both told themselves the story based on their own self-talk and their own experience of how they see the world. So one person thought the guy loved him, one person thought the guy hated him, had nothing to do with either one of them whatsoever, but they created this whole story in their head in a millisecond because of the drama that's already happening in their world. So the moral of the story is how we experience the world is totally based on our own inner self-talk and what's going on in our own head. So our reality is very, very skewed. We're playing this movie all the time in our head. So how do we rise above our old programming? The one thing that's constant in the world is that there will always be drama. There will always be challenges. There will always be problems. There will always be tests. You know, it says man was made to toil. So we can either learn how to process these tests with, what's wrong? What now? Maybe if I can and we're waiting for things to calm down before we're able to live a life we love, which means we're never going to be able to live a life we love. Or we learn how to process and internalize the tests differently. So humans are emotional beings, there's no doubt, but we're also physical and spiritual beings. So to really tap into emotional intelligence and begin the journey toward emotional mastery, which means we don't get triggered, we don't get sucked into all the drama, we don't become drunk off of the emotional rat race of whatever's happening around us, then we've got to be able to look at the bigger picture. Okay? So we use the acronym ESPM, which stands for emotional, spiritual, physical, mental. So this is like your holistic, big picture journey. Now, organizing our lives into each one of these dimensions means moving from a compulsive state of activity, which means I'm just constantly reacting. I have no executive functioning. I have no higher consciousness. I'm just in the driver's seat. I'm in the passenger seat like a child. Oh, she made me mad. She angered me. She stole my tea. And I just think the whole world is out to get me. Victim, victim, victim all the time. So I have to learn how to transform myself from this very low level state of functioning to a conscious state of existence, of activity. Okay? So today we're going to focus on emotions, but I want to quickly look at the other layers to see how they feed one on top of each other. Okay? So if I want to live at my best self, I cannot neglect any one of these areas because we are meant to be the sum total of all of these things, right? So synergy, you know, the definition of synergy is when they all add up, you have a greater combined energy than the sum of these individual parts, right? So it doesn't matter, like, you know, I could have a lot of money, let's say, but I'm neglecting my sleep. I'm eating like garbage. I'm drinking too much. I'm never exercising, whatever. How great am I going to feel? Not good. Okay, not good because I'm completely neglecting one piece of the pie. Okay, now I could be physically healthy. I could be exercising every day. I could be eating right. I could be really working on my physical health, getting really, really good sleep, 8.5 hours of sleep every night. Hallelujah. Never happened to me once, but one day. But if I am neglecting my mind and I'm not focused on personal development, I'm not focused on emotional management, emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, and I'm living as a victim to these stories that have been programmed in me since childhood. So one of the big game changers that a lot of people, you know, you don't have to believe everything you think. right? Just because I have a thought doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean I have to act on the thought. And, you know, a lot of times these thoughts that are passing through, and then we just start to believe this story. But most people never learn that you can train yourself to think better. You can, you know, learn thoughts or habits, and we can learn how to ignore, delete, retrain these thoughts because we pick up thoughts. We learn how to copy the people around us. We hear their talk, we hear what they think, we hear what they say. And so we develop this internal chatter based on the people that we hang around the most, based on our parents, based on our extended family members, and it's disgusting. Like, we don't have to keep that, right? And then, you know, same thing for our emotions. We can learn to master our emotions just like we learn to master our thoughts. But here's the thing. We have to start with the end in mind. So if I know that I want to have joy and I want to be happy and grateful every day, I can't just wake up and see what the world's going to hold. I can't just wake up and wait to see what the day is going to hold. I have to design my thought process and I have to give myself a way to, you ever like woke up from a state of unconsciousness where all of a sudden you're like completely mad and stressed about something? You're like, why am I even doing it? Like, why? What is the point of this temper tantrum that I'm on right now? And you don't even remember what got you mad in the first place. Okay? So if we're whining, moaning, you know, complaining and living in defeat, we're completely blocking what it is that we want in the first place. So one of the things that we have to learn how to do is to rein back in our thoughts. So if we can feel ourselves on a runaway train and we're starting to get stressed or we're starting to give in to the things around me, have y'all ever heard of this? There's a thought process. Have y'all heard of the guy that he was a car salesman and he sells millions and millions of dollars in automobiles, like high-end cars, every month simply by sitting and cleaning the air around him with his thoughts? Okay? So there's basically what they're shifting their energy and their thoughts, and as a result, then they're bringing higher energy to them. Okay? So he says one phrase over and over again, says, this is there's a whole book about this, and they're testing it in all these different ways. It says, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Those 4 statements, over and over again all day. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And he's literally using these statements to clean the air. Okay? Now, thanking them, okay? This same exact statement, there's I forget his name now, but he's a Hawaiian therapist, like he's a doctor of something or other, but like a psychologist. Okay, and very, very famous. There's a story. There's a book written about him called Zero Limits, which is such a crazy, crazy story. But he emptied. There was a psych ward in one of the most dangerous, like hospitals of hardened criminals in Honolulu, and he emptied out the entire psych ward, meaning that they were all healed and released, by going and sitting in the hospital and thinking these 4 statements over and over again all day. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Now, the crazy thing, these are non-Jews saying very non-Jewish statements. So imagine the power of Tehillim. Okay, but what they're doing here, see, this is all non-Jews just simply tapping into the forces of nature that Hashem wrote into the universe. I mean, you know, the Tzemach Tzedek, who's the 3rd Lubavitcher Rebbe, says that if we knew the power of Tehillim in the heavens, that we would literally say it all day long without stopping. But the point is the same, that we are focused on higher level functioning. So I've actually experimented with this a few times. I've had people that they were really angry for whatever reason. And I thought, what am I going to do? 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 And so I started testing it. And I started thinking, like, so if you hold the other person in your thoughts and you start thinking good things about this person or cleaning, like, I'm sorry, I love you, I'm sorry. You just think, so I started, within 24 hours, they were messaging me to apologize or to make amends or to fix the situation. So basically what's happening is we are holding, instead of letting our negative emotions hijack our mind, we purposefully replace those negative emotions with positive, abundant thoughts. And then it literally, because again, emotions are energy. Everything is energy. So when I shift my energy and I start focusing on positive, abundant, loving energy, it's like a honing mechanism coming out the top of my head, and then it reorganizes everything in the universe around me to bring me more positive things as opposed to exploding these negative things. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Now, I'm not saying we need to go around, if you can think of a parak of Tehillim, it's going to be, much better to say, or, a pasuk of Tanya. Anything is more powerful. But the point is, when you can't remember anything, you can even just start saying Shema. But just focusing on the positive energy is more important than even, the specific words that you're saying. But the key is to always stay on a high vibration. And when we're locked into, our bullseye of where we're headed in our life, everything organizes itself. The problem is when we take our eye off the prize, we get lost. Okay? So when you have a major life change and you're like, what am I going to do now? Who am I going to be now? Where am I going to go? And we don't know. And so we kind of just like wander around a little bit, until we're trying to find ourselves again. So the question that we have to ask ourselves in those seasons where we don't know what is our true north, we don't know what it is that we're aiming for, what's your purpose? Why are we here? Now, it doesn't even have to be your forever purpose, okay? It could just be your purpose like for right now, at this current season of your life. If I believe that everything is happening for me, not to me, then everything else can flow from that. But this really goes into drama management, okay? So we're going to talk about just some very practical tips for ongoing life drama. We all have it. Everybody does, okay? Bills, financial struggles, sickness, loss, loss of job, loss of home, loved ones, family challenges, drama. We've all got it. Now, here's the deal. There is a difference between life-changing trauma and ongoing drama. Now, please understand, I would never dream of undermining or minimizing true life pain. Okay, so we've first got to recognize the difference between drama and trauma. So when you experience trauma of any type, there's a healing process that's natural and important. Okay, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is just drama. Okay, am I a drama magnet, a drama queen? Now, I got to tell you, I used to be. Okay, and I learned along the way that our tendency to attract drama is directly correlated to our emotional awareness, our emotional management, and emotional intelligence. So let's clarify the difference, okay? Emotional management usually refers to my ability to manage my own emotions, right? Whereas emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive or assess and manage the emotions, not just of myself, but I can read other people's emotions. Okay, and not from a perspective of that I'm going to manipulate them because I can read their emotions, but more, that I can connect with where they are and I can help pull them out and lead them in a certain direction. Okay, so empathy is a big one. And it's a very, very important first step. And then the next step is, okay, now I've connected with you through empathy and genuine feelings, but we're not just going to stay here holding in this space, but we're going to then, it's like you toss them on your back and carry them out, right? Because then you can communicate with them through that emotional awareness. So the first piece is to recognize, like to take an assessment and say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's my emotional awareness? Am I aware of my own emotions throughout the day? Am I not? Then how's my emotional management? Can I manage my emotions throughout the day, or am I constantly getting sucked in and not realizing it until it's too late? And then how is my emotional intelligence? Am I able to, it's almost like you're a conductor of a symphony, okay? That this person acts this way emotionally and this person acts this way emotionally, and people are just like, literally, if you can imagine, we're all walking around with blindfolds on and we're all going like this. And what's happening is that our emotional body takes over. And everyone is functioning as a result of their emotions and not from their cognitive functioning, not from their higher level thinking, because we're getting sucked in to our emotions at any given point throughout the day. So, you know what it looks like if we get triggered, okay? We get pulled off, we're fine, everything's fine, and somebody comes in, our kid says something, or our spouse says something, or our parent, and all of a sudden we just, like, our voice shoots up an octave, we're all tense and tight, and we blah, and we don't even know what triggered it, because we became drunk in that moment, and we just became a victim to this emotional situation. So obviously, from emotional management, emotional intelligence, wanting to lead our families, our kids, we've got to be the calm in the storm, right? So what that means is we've got to be able to, so at our schools, there's a model of a philosophy is called conscious discipline. It really should be called conscious communication. But basically what it does is it teaches teachers and children to be able to move themselves from, like, when you get triggered or when you get fight, flight, or freeze, and you get, all of a sudden, fear takes over, right? I'm feeling threatened. You're either threatening my ego, you're threatening my space, you're threatening my influence, you're whatever I'm feeling threatened by. So the frontal lobe, like this big piece of your brain, is your cognitive, your executive functioning. So when I'm on it, when I'm focused, when I'm giving my best, I'm totally holding up here. Okay? When I'm thinking, when I'm taking a test, when I'm reading a book, when I'm giving my best, I'm operating here. Your frontal lobe. Okay? When I get knocked into fight, flight, or freeze, it goes all the way back here to the spine, which is called your reptilian brain. So all I'm doing here, I have checked out, nobody's home, and I'm in survival mode. I'm angry, I'm afraid, don't talk to me. There's nobody to talk to. Okay, so I'm back here in the red zone is what it's called. Okay, so the point is then to be able to recognize when either ourselves or anybody around us has been knocked into their reptilian brain and bring us back up to our frontal lobe, to our executive functioning. Okay, so that sounds like, I don't know what just happened. I'm safe. I'm loved. I can handle this. Whatever that thing is, it's not real. I had to practice this a few times myself in the past week. I have a crazy mom at our school that is absolutely convinced that the entire world is out to get her. Absolutely convinced. And she's sending me harassing emails. I mean, like, crazy stuff, okay? So much to the point where I don't even have time to answer all of her emails. And all I want to do is tell her to shut up and go away. Okay? But I'm so, like, she got really mad one day and posted a bunch of stuff on social media. I mean, just losing it. Okay? And 24 hours later, it's all gone and nobody cares. But in the moment, it's so triggering that I'm like, what do you want from me? You know? And so I'm just like, okay, go away. Whew, I can breathe through this. It's not real. She's creating this smoke screen of things. So it feels like, you have this hater for a minute, or all of a sudden you get a big, huge bill, and you have no idea how you're going to pay the bill. And all you can think about, like, for example, we lost a big, huge grant. We lost $40,000 a month in our operating expenses overnight. How are we going to replace this? And it feels so huge. It feels so overwhelming and consuming, and you don't know how. It's like you're carrying a boulder that you can't handle. And what Hasidus teaches us, actually the Alter Rebbe, he teaches you to flick away the temptation, just like this, that it's not real. It's an illusion. It's like it's a puppet show. Okay? So whatever these things are, they're straight from Hashem to test us in some way. The question is, what is the test? Well, we don't know exactly why they come. Okay? But for whatever, sometimes we need to, like I know for me, a few times I just had to get thicker skin. And I wasn't going to grow thicker skin until I was attacked enough times to realize this is stupid. It's going to go away. It's not going to last. And I have to suck it up and deal with it. Okay? And sometimes I needed to learn new skills. Sometimes I had to have a test come at me so I could get stronger. So there are all these different reasons why we have to go through these tests. But the reality is they're not real. It's like a puppet show. It's like a video game, right? It puts in and you have to master all these obstacles. And then once you master those obstacles, then you can go to the next level of the game, right? So the Alter Rebbe teaches that you flick away the temptation, just like this. He says, just like, instead of getting sucked into the drama, you just flick it's not real. It's not real. It's not there. Okay? So one of my best, most favorite teachers, which I'll tell you about in a minute, she was a Hasidus teacher. And she had this one phrase that she repeated over and over and over and over. And I say it to myself at least 500 times a day. Okay? The work is with me. The work is with me. Okay? So the moment that you stop looking around and identifying the obstacles and the problems and all the fault, everything in our life changes. Okay? So everything that's happening in our world is here because we've attracted it, we've manifested it, we've created it in some way. It's here to make us better, smarter, stronger, wiser. And it is for our absolute good. No matter how ugly or horrifying or scary it is in the moment. So all these situations, they can either define us or they can refine us. They define us or they refine us. And the Baal Shem Tov says that every single person in your life that drives you crazy is a reflection of something on the inside that we need to heal or transform or release in some way. Because if we weren't carrying a flicker of that trait, we wouldn't get triggered by it. So the biggest thing that we can do is when we see those things that drive us crazy in other people, that's when we start those, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Okay. But we start just cleaning that connection of whatever that is within us. And the moment that we work on ourselves, the more all those other situations in our life will dissipate. Or at the very least, the sting will go away because we understand what it's for. It's like the story in Tehillim when David HaMelech, one of the generals in the other army came up to him and spit at him in the face. And his general, like his bodyguard, took a sword out and was about to cut the guy's head off for spitting at King David. And David stopped him. He said, no, the spit was from God. I needed to experience that for one reason. Why are you going to kill the messenger? So the same Hasidus teacher that I was mentioning, so she lives in Israel, and I did Zoom sessions with her a couple of times a week. And she was the biggest gift in my life in this area. So did I tell y'all about her? She teaches, it's a method called drawers. Do y'all know about the drawers method? So we would get on Zoom. Actually, it was on the phone. Must have been WhatsApp. And she would say, pick a drawer. Any drawer in my house.
Oh, clean it?
Yeah.
Organize it?
Yeah. Okay. So we would take everything out. I would dump it out, and it was a 1 hour session. And through the process of everything in the drawer would represent some character or some trait or something in your life. And by the time I always loved it because like, okay, my house is going to be clean and I'm going to be clean on the inside through the process, okay? But her husband had MS and he was steadily deteriorating, worse and worse and worse, to where she was basically having to be his full-time nurse. And, you know, he got to where, I mean, he was like a child and she was having to take care of her husband like she would a child. And on top of it, as he got worse, he became more and more angry and grumpy and demand multiple sclerosis. So it's like his muscular system was shutting down. He couldn't walk, couldn't eat, couldn't, you know, do much of anything for himself. And so he was really bitter about it. He knew it was happening and he hated it and he was embarrassed. And so he just she was like his nurse, full-time nurse of her husband. And then he was like abusing her verbally the whole time. And I mean, I was just in awe, like watching this woman. But she would say, you know what? I know he's going to live forever. He's never going to die. She said, because if he would die, then my life would become too easy. And I need the growth. Now, of course, she was kidding, okay? And it was just kind of a bad joke to try to mitigate a really terrible situation. But there is an element of truth that she said, I need this to refine my character, to learn a new trait, to be able to dig into the strength of really what Hashem put me here to do. And once she was able to shift the situation from unbearable pain to part of her life growth story, like a workout regimen, then it completely transformed her ability to deal with the situation and rise above it. Because instead of saying, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why me? Why me? Why me? This is so terrible. And suffering every day through the situation, she was able to accept the situation with love. Now, does that level of life require a tremendous amount of bitachon and faith? Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. But remember, the moment that I become aware of emotional intelligence and that it's an invisible energy that is running our hardware. This invisible energy of emotion is literally driving us all day, every day, and we don't even realize. It's like this invisible power of what's driving our ship. So it's either driving us somewhere intentionally or it's knocking us off. So the moment I become aware of this, then I can do something about it, and I can become an intentional student, and I can become purposeful with it, and I can develop a skill set and another tool to add to my tool belt where I don't have to live as a lifelong victim to my own emotional cycle. And what if we can transfer this to our kids? What if they don't have to go through high school, college, early adulthood, just living as a victim emotionally to everything that's happening around them? Okay, so first thing, the work is with me. The work is with me, the work is with me, the work is with me. Second tip, from a state of becoming intentional instead of reactive with our emotions, is that we become like the 5 people we hang around the most. Okay, now, that is not like secret from Hasidus, okay? But it is a secret from Hasidus. Why is that? Because if you can track your recurring drama to the same people or the same situations over and over and over again, then it may be time for a new inner circle. Okay? If it's friends and family, obviously we can get new friends, can't really get new family. We don't want to kick our entire family to the curb, but we want to learn that no matter, see, we can't change other people, but when we change the way we look at things, then the way we look at things change, right? So I can have somebody in my life that they're just like a constant just explode, and they can be over here trying to poke the bear because misery loves company. So if they're constantly explosive and going like this, they're going to be poking you and prodding you because they want to pull you in to their drama, because that's what emotions do. It's an addictive cycle, and we want more friends into the cycle with us. So I can either do one of two things. I can either say, this person does not need to be in my life. It's not my spouse. It's not my kid. It's not my parent. So I'm going to distance myself from this person. Or if it is spouse, kid, parent, where we can't really distance them, then we have to understand that when I recalibrate myself to working at a higher level, I don't have to get sucked into the trap every single time that it happens. So I can protect my conversation. I can protect my dreams. I had a coach once say, imagine that you have she called it like a poncho, like a parka, like a rain. What did she call it? It's like a big black, it's a cape. Thank you. Cape's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Okay. So whenever the person starts to, go onto their rant, you take this mental cape and you wrap it around yourselves. And you literally, while you're doing this, you think you're shutting yourself off emotionally. So you're putting this cape in a visible field that is preventing you from absorbing all of this toxic energy.
But it's hard because you know this is happening, they're doing it, it's happening, and I get it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, it's usually passive aggressive, right? And they're going to keep going. And if they don't get a rise out of you the first way, they're going to turn up the volume to try to get the rise the next way. So, especially if it's a kid. That's right. And if it's a kid, you can stop everything you're doing and say, I need a hug, right? And when you slow down and match your energy to theirs, but you can't necessarily do that with your parent, or with somebody else that is in a different dynamic. So we know in every relationship, we're either the giver or the taker. We're the buyer or the seller. We're the giver or the receiver, right? The leader or the follower.
The giver, who's the buyer, who's the seller? The giver is the buyer?
Mm-hmm. No, the buyer is the receiver.
The buyer is the receiver, the seller is the giver.
Yeah, okay. So leading, following, giving, taking, buying, receiving, buying, selling. So it's give and take, right? Yin and yang. So we have to decide in a situation. So if there's someone that's not very close to me and they're just gossip and drama all the time, I'm just going to quietly minimize my time with that person, right? But if it's someone that I can't do that with for whatever, and those people are very few, but they do exist in our inner circle, okay? Then that person becomes your workout routine. It becomes your emotional, spiritual, mental workout. Now, those people are draining. So you don't want to spend all day, every day with them because it's impossible. But when you are with them, that's when the cape goes on and that's when you focus on, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And you're putting that clean energy into the world to clean the things that are happening. But we have to remember that you become like you are based on the books you read / videos we watch, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of the above, YouTube. So the books we read, the people we associate with, and the arenas in which we invest our time. And when we start becoming very focused and intentional with those 3 areas of influence, we start to realize how much we are absorbing from the world around us, from the people around us. And then I can decide I'm going to become more strategic on what I'm allowing to go into my brain, because everything is energy. So, of course, remember the work is with me. And the last piece is that the strongest key, the highest level of emotional intelligence would be understanding that everything is perfect. Okay? Everything is perfect exactly as it is right now. So, obviously, there's going to have to be some sort, you have bitachon, you have faith in a higher power, you have trust that this universe, there's an order and a reason to what's happening. So this moment is perfect. And this moment is perfect. And this moment is perfect. And this moment is perfect, while the next moment is pure possibility. Anything can happen in the next moment. And the moment it's happened, then it's perfect. It's exactly what Hashem wanted. And everything is exactly as it should be right now for my highest good and for the greatest good of all. And when I can truly internalize that, then things start to become easy. Now, it doesn't mean, again, that I live on easy street, but it means then I have the tools necessary in my emotional, mental, spiritual bank to be able to deal with whatever is happening around us. So if, for example, do I really believe, like, the God that I worship, is he up there, like, somehow, like, scrambling to hold it all together? Did he not know what was going to happen today? Did he not know what was going to happen tomorrow or yesterday? Of course not. Okay? But that's how we act, because if he's sitting up there fretting over how to handle all the bad things, we're in big trouble. But because we continue to take things back into our own hands instead of just trusting that things are the way they're meant to be, it's actually said that it's heresy. It's idol worship, because it means that we know better than God. So thank heaven we're not in control. Okay? So this allows us to work as if it's all up to us and then release the results. Because being a control freak is only going to send us to an early grave. Now, y'all are aware of this daily audio message, this 10-minute bitachon message that I will never shut up about. Okay? So I was listening to it today, and what he was reminding us of today, he said, basically, if you are functioning in full bitachon, full trust. So bitachon, the best English translation for bitachon is certainty. Okay? So if I'm operating in full certainty that everything is for my best exactly as it is right now, I don't have to stress. I don't have to kill myself to make a living. Right? But the reason we're killing ourselves is because we don't fully believe that. We say it, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, all day, every day, but we're not internalizing it. We're not really holding there. We're just giving it lip service. And then that's why we get stressed and we have to try to overdo and control everything. He said, if you've got an email address and a bank account, you can sit and work on yourself all day long and everything will organize itself. But you have to be whole. And that's why I was thinking, dang it. These non-Jews that are so simple with their faith, that's why it's working for them. Because they have so much faith that it's going to work out. And what are we over here trying to do? We're getting in the way. We're messing up the bracha. We're getting in the way of where Moti says we're bothering the plan. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if everything is perfect and the work is with me, then every situation that happens around me is just another reminder. Thank God you got this. Just don't let me get in the way. Right? So it's something happening to us. It's not something happening to us. It's something happening for us. Even the bad stuff. Okay? And where I struggle the most is I always want to know why. Why is this happening? Why? Why does it have to happen this way? Why? And Monty is like, why do you keep asking that question? And of course it's why the goyim will say, which I hate this phrase. But there's this very, very considered like the father of one of the main original teachers on personal development in the non-Jewish world, which of course everything comes from Torah. But he used to say, don't sign up for that class. Don't ask why. He says, when you run your own planet and you've designed your own world, then you can write your own rule book. Until then, asking why isn't going to help you. It's not going to change anything. So just start believing that everything is absolutely for the best, okay? So if my situation in this moment isn't going to change, then what good is it going to do for me to overanalyze all the possible reasons of why it possibly could have come together, okay? Now, if I'm trusting that everything around, like, I'll give you an example, okay? If I don't have this mindset that everything is organized from above for reasons that I may never be able to understand this side of heaven, but it's not my job. It's above my pay grade to understand why it's happening. But when I can release the need to control, which is very hard for me, but when I can release the need to control and the need to know why, then I get to function from higher consciousness. I can just release, right? And trust. But without that mindset, all of my days on this earth are going to be very stressful. They're going to be very full of worry. I'm going to be constantly living in duck and cover, trying to shield and protect myself and my family from whatever's going to come next. Okay? But if I can choose to subscribe to this mindset, then everything is perfect. Complete faith and trust, and I can be totally empowered and free. Let me give you an example. Okay, yesterday, Pesach Sheni, I had to spend the day in the courthouse. Okay, so I was required to appear before a judge in downtown Phoenix to fight a court case where I've been named as a defendant due to non-compliance with the Phoenix Fire Department for the past 2 years because of how our property was run long before we took over it in 2021. So we've been fighting this case for the past 2 years as a complete nightmare. And I ended up having to go to court and sit in front of a judge and plead responsible or not responsible and wait for the whole thing to happen, okay? So I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's Pesach Sheni, second chances. And I know that every there's a rule in Hasidus that everything that happens in a court down below is reflective of court up above. So I'm thinking, okay, why am I saying release? Just had to release. And the moment that I was able to release and start working through it, everything ended up fine. Okay, we're not out of the woods yet, but there was no harm, no foul. They gave me 2 more months to continue working on the problems. Like I was telling Gimbal before we started, we're in a situation right now. We just lost a bunch of grant money from our school because of loss of COVID funding. And we're in a situation where we have to have $400,000 in the next week or the schools don't continue. So this is not theory. Okay, this is like very real practical things that when I had to have a parent meeting last week and explain these things to the parents, and now they're seeing me on campus every day and they're like wringing their hands and how's, because of course they are. Now they got to find new schools possibly, the teachers possibly have to find new jobs. It's very, very stressful if you don't have a high level of trust. And so they see me on campus, and they expect me to be walking around like my dog just died. How are you smiling? Aren't you a nervous wreck? I'm like, well, left to my own devices, yes. I would be a complete nervous wreck. I would be, I would have ulcers and stress and, not sleeping whatsoever and trying to force a solution, trying to force an outcome. But if we actually believe all these things we've been talking about all day, it's just a workout. It's just an emotional, spiritual, physical workout. No, it's like this. I'm just like, okay, it's a test. It's a test. It's an illusion. It's not real. So the bottom line is that it's time for us to write a different story for ourselves. We know that we're infinitely powerful, beyond our wildest imagination, and we do not have to continue wearing our emotions like a cancer. Like a leech, okay? So the best, and we'll wrap up with this, the best exercise, sometimes you need something physical, like the emotion is so strong, you need a physical action to shift the energy, right? So you know what leeches are, right? Like they're sucking your blood, right? So if you can imagine that you're if you find yourself, you're so overwhelmed and you're so stressed by this emotion, just literally imagine yourself pretend like you siphon it up, make this noise, like suck the emotional heaviness away, pluck it out, hold it in your hand, toss it, play basketball with it, I don't care, okay? But when you can physically make this motion of removing the emotional heaviness, that instead of it sucking the life out of you like a leech or like a cancer, exactly, it's not a part of you. And when you can do this, when you can pull it out, it takes the sting away. It takes the power out of it, and then you can all of a sudden look at it objectively. You're no longer attached to it, right? And just giving you that little bit of space, like that little bit of daylight between you and the problem or you and the emotion, it gives you all your power back. And then you can put yourself back in the driver's seat. You go from your reptilian brain back to your executive functioning brain, and then you can remind yourself of all of the things that you know. Okay? So that's our homework for this week. When we catch ourselves being drunk by the emotion, we're going to start practicing. It's not real. It's not real. And if we have to suck it out, we're going to pull that emotional body out, hold it in our hand, say, this is not me. Okay? My mind was just hijacked, and I'm going to take it back. I'm going to siphon it out. And then, so every time it happens this week, that's what you're going to start practicing. Okay? And then next week, we're going to start taking every triggering situation in your life and rewriting the story based on Chassidus and Bitachon so that you can be back in the driver's seat of your life with these new secret weapons, and you can actually elevate your entire family to a higher level of existence and daily functioning. Sound good? Yay! Any questions? Okay. Bye, guys.